Hey guys, Zom Fox here, and today we're going to be talking about some more news from the XFL in regards to its competition with the USFL. The XFL, in its third attempt to actually be a legit league, has just recently announced where the teams are going to be playing. They have not announced the names, but they've announced where the teams are playing and who's going to coach exactly which team. So, like I did a while back when they announced the coaches, talking about how it compares to the USFL, we're going to be discussing whether or not the XFL is choosing the right cities to try and compete with the USFL. USFL naturally has said that they will not be going to all 8 stadiums next year. They are going to be doing 2 to 4, which I believe will be 2 or 4 hub cities, with Birmingham being one of them. And so the idea is, are the XFL teams going to be getting enough attention and attendance to be able to get a head start in getting actual fan bases in their home cities of the USFL? So without further ado, the teams that are the places where the XFL are going to be playing are Arlington, Houston, Orlando, Vegas, San Antonio, Seattle, St. Louis, and Washington. Those are the host cities. Bob Stoops will coach the Arlington team. Wade Phillips will coach the Houston team. Terrell Buckley will coach the Orlando team. Rod Woodson, Vegas. Hines Ward, San Antonio. Jim Haslett, Seattle. Anthony Beck, St. Louis, and Reggie Barlow will coach Washington. So the first thing to note is just exactly, are these cities really good? Well, some of them haven't actually had a team. Arlington is pretty much just Dallas. To most people, it's like 30 minutes away, and that's where the Cowboys play. The Dallas Renegades are the only team from either the AAF or 2020 XFL who actually had a team. The Dallas Renegades got 17,000 fans per game, which is decent. It's better than what the AAF league average was, as you can see, and it's a decent amount. It's not a ton, but it's decent. As for the Houston team, Houston did have a team in the XFL as well. They got about 18,000 fans per game, which is a bit better. So overall, both those teams are solid. Now, them also doing San Antonio is both good, bad, and weird, and I'll talk about it. So, San Antonio Commanders across both leagues was actually the second best team. They got roughly 27.7 thousand fans per game back in the AAF. The Commanders got an insane amount of people, loving them and stuff like that. But it's just, you have 3 teams in Texas. I'll talk about it in a second. Then you have Orlando. Orlando had a team that is also a new city, as they had the Apollos in the AAF. The Apollos were a very solid team. They were the best team in the league, and even though they're the best team, they only averaged 19.6 thousand fans per game, which isn't actually that good in an overall sense for what you'd expect for a team that was atop the line. So it's kind of weird they would choose it, but I guess it's because they want to have a team in Florida, and that's the only one they have. Then you have Vegas. Vegas naturally is the betting capital of the world. A lot of betting stuff happens. So it makes sense. There hasn't been any team in either league who's played in Vegas. So that'll be the first venture in a, spring football there. But considering the fact that there's really only the Golden Knights there playing during the time the XFL will be, it's a very good idea in that sense. Seattle and St. Louis are totally understandable. I don't think that should surprise anyone. They were, aside from San Antonio, they were the 2 best cities across both leagues, with the St. Louis Battlehawks being the most well-received team by far at 28,000.5. Granted, they only did host 2 games, and the Seattle Dragons also only hosted 2 games, but they had 25,000.6 thousand fans per game as well. So in the very, 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 very small sample size, they both did extremely well. And as for St. Louis, it seemed like they're going to be doing well for the whole year. The Dragons, they did lose a lot from, their second and third game, so we'll kind of see. And then Washington, being the other team. Washington, kind of a shock to me as well. Neither team has actually played in Washington either. Well, yeah, they have. The DC Defenders are the only other team, but they only average 16,000 fans per game. And Washington does have teams in pretty much every league for the most part. The Wizards and the Wizards, Capitals, Nationals, and the Commanders, I guess, all play at the same time, or all are there, so it's weird. So, as for the 8 cities they picked, the new ones were San Antonio, Orlando, and Vegas, and the other ones are coming back. I like the idea of coming back from teams, as it allows people who are fans of them to come back and be fans of them again, because I'm assuming they're probably going to keep the same names as those other teams and just add new ones. I'm not fully sure. But as for was it a good idea and did they pick the right cities, Well, in terms of competition with the USFL, first of all, the USFL, they're really going to be competing in mainly one area for sure, and that is Houston, the Houston Gamblers in the USFL. And so I feel like this might make the USFL make the jump to make Houston try to be one of its hub cities to get, some attention to the Gamblers so they don't get totally overtaken by the XFL's Houston team. And then aside from that, the only major point of contention that I would fully see is the Tampa Bay Bandits and Orlando team, as you have two teams in Florida, and so they could definitely be, fighting for it. But aside from that, it seems that both teams pretty much tried their best to go away from each other. So, which I understand that, and I get it. But now it leads to this question. Did the XFL's teams actually good ideas? Well, in terms of the overall landscape of where teams play, naturally this is going in best case scenario. Both leagues succeed and they both have fan bases. The USFL definitely has the upper edge, and that's unarguable. The fact is, they have a team playing in the New York area in the Generals who play in Jersey, but just like in the NFL, the Giants and Jets are considered New York teams, but they play in Jersey. So the Jersey Generals are in that area. And even though they don't have a team really, in California, which a lot of people would expect, they do have New Orleans, which is a really good market, and then Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are great markets as well. And they have more a spread out unit. Hence, whereas the XFL really is more of a fully South thing within Seattle and some other teams up there. But they don't have a single team in New York or California, which is a pretty shocking thing to have, especially in this day and age, as they're like the two biggest markets you can really get. But my biggest issue for them in the XFL sense of them succeeding, they have three teams specifically in Texas. That's not really a good idea to me, because you're putting all your eggs in one basket that Texas will be like, all three of those areas will be fully committed to, cheering for a football team. And the thing is, there are multiple teams in those, in different leagues and stuff that are well, and I understand that, they do well and stuff like that. But I mean, remember, they're playing in February. They're playing in the heart of seasons, where at that point you have three basketball teams playing, each in one city that they're playing at. Even if you consider Arlington its own thing, the Mavericks are playing just a half hour away. You have the Rockets playing, and you have the Spurs playing. Granted, the Spurs are probably going to be really bad, but the Rockets are, getting better-ish, and the Mavericks still exist, and then you still have the Dallas Stars playing, so you have a lot of sports going on at this time, so it's kind of weird to me that they're going to have three teams in one state. Seattle and St. Louis, their fans are the reason they're getting them. St. Louis, they got, kind of screwed over by Kroenke and the Rams, so it's great to see them get another chance at a football team. But Washington, that's another weird one. Washington has a hockey team and a basketball team playing there. And the Wizards, they might not be a top tier team, but they're not like a bottom five team. They're okay. But the Capitals are still trying to compete for a cup. And so, overall, in terms of the cities they picked, the only one I really can say I think is a smart move is Vegas. The bottom line is, the market is growing in Vegas for sports teams. I know there's a lot of reports or ideas that the Oakland A's might go to Vegas, depending on how stadium stuff goes. But it seems that they keep on getting teams slowly and surely. Their fans seem to go to games or, be a cool thing to see. So if you can get your foot in the door in Vegas and, stay as a legit team, that's a smart one. And I think across both the USFL and XFL, that's arguably the smartest team placement of any of them. And I'm not joking. I think that's a really smart placement. But aside from Vegas, I really don't understand why you're adding another team to Texas. San Antonio may have done insanely well in the USF and the AAF, but you now have three teams in that one state. And then Washington coming back, I'm not a huge fan of that. And Orlando, I understand it. You want to put a team in Florida, but I don't know. I think it's not the best idea. I think that the only good thing is for them is naturally they're going to be playing in their home cities, is what pretty much it all seems to be. So they will have, actual fans going to their games fully in every single, city, where the USFL will only go to potentially halfway. But if the USFL puts their teams in smart places, it can kind of counteract that. Because if they do end up having four teams in, those areas, and they end up doing like a 2-2 division style matchup, only a couple of games will only end up having not one of the two home teams, So you can kind of, force feed, the Birmingham Stallions, so they had 10 home games. You can kind of make that like probably like 6 home games or 7 or 8. Yeah, like 8 home games, depending on how many you have and stuff like that. And if you put a team in Houston, you can directly counter the Houston team in the XFL. But if you have it as a hub city, naturally, the gambler's going to be playing a lot more than the Houston team in the other league. So you have more chances to go to a Houston Gamblers game than the other one. Then if you put them in like other markets like Tampa Bay to directly counter Orlando, and then you put one more somewhere else, I mean, you can do that and get that stronghold in those areas. And if you can get the stronghold there as fans see that the USFL succeeded, it's a benefit. That's overall how I view it. I think the XFL in their third attempt to last didn't make the best out of the cities they could have picked. I think they did decent. I like Seattle coming back. I like St. Louis coming back. I feel like they should have gotten rid of either Arlington or Houston to bring in San Antonio and then bring a team to either New York, California, or just somewhere else. It's just weird. You're gonna go that bold into saying, yeah, we're gonna go to this one area and we're gonna dominate this one area. They got a good TV deal. We'll have to see. We're gonna do more XFL videos are probably to come comparing to the USFL since the season's getting a bit closer. This has been Zom Fox. If you enjoy this content, mind notified as soon as I upload any videos. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And closing thought, really, I think the USFL has better cities right now. I think they just need to capitalize on and try and get those cities actually being played in. I like the places the USFL playing more than the XFL, but wait and see. Have a great night, everyone. See you guys next time.